Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the coronavirus lockdown service. We've all been told to stay at home, and so I'm going to record this service and talk from my home. A lot of people have mentioned how they missed the music and missed the community time of seeing each other at church, so I'm going to try to include a little bit of that today. And we are all doing a lot of waiting these days, waiting to see how things play out with this coronavirus and the many weeks or months up ahead. So I thought this song would be appropriate. This is what the band looks at, a chord chart, and that's all I have here, so that's what you guys will look at today too. Now, to give you a little taste of community, to see what some people in our church are doing and how they're doing during this time, take a look at this.
All right. Hello, Seeker Church. Wish we could meet in person, but this is the only safe way to do it. So I want to show you some of the stuff we've been up to.
Hi, Dad.
Say hi.
Hi.
Lyric, say hi.
Hi.
Avery, say hi.
Hi.
Yep. All right. There's the girls.
Bolty,
We've been playing together. There's Bolty. We're making some steaks tonight, so hopefully those turn out yum. And I'll show you the next thing in a minute. And then tell them what we did. What is this?
We planted. Yeah.
Lots of seeds. Lyric even did some, didn't you? And Sissy helped. We talked about measurements and how deep.
those in the clay.
Yeah, we planted a lot of seeds, so we're going to try to make a garden over there. We'll see if that happens. So, eventually. Here's the little pepper seeds that kind of inspired us. You know, I had this little tin and I planted some. And so they started to actually grow when I followed the instructions. So now we're trying the whole garden thing. There's my connection to the world. That's where I'll be working. That's where we've been Skyping each other and stuff to stay connected. So I'll probably sit in front of that and record some music. Idle time equals new guitars. So traded in a couple of acoustics actually for this guy. Sounds pretty good. Excited about that. And then of course got this one you may have seen on Facebook, and I kind of excited about that. It's got the single coil pickups that can give me a different sound than I usually play with. And the loop pedal. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to try to put together a loop of some different stuff, using the drum box even for drums. So we'll see what happens. All right, we're trying to just play together and have a little fun. Love you guys. Hope to see you soon.
John and Lisa White here. We're missing you all very much. We're practicing our social distancing. John has been working on projects around the house since he's not working at work.
Got temporarily laid off, but hey, unemployment, it's a free vacation to me.
I, on the other hand, have been working pretty much every day since all this started, but we're free today, so love you guys, miss you, can't wait to see you again.
Hi there, this is
Naila
Anne Lee,
Williams.
and we're joining you in church from home, where we are stationed for the next week or two, and we're going to show you what we're doing while we're not so much out and about. Now I'm just going to go on in and I'll show you. I'm supposed to be in Germany this week teaching for OU, but unfortunately I'm not, so I'm having to teach my class from home with via video. It's actually working out kind of okay. The students are really good. But to give myself the German mood, I sit there and I can look at my Bavarian clock and the beer garden sign, and take a look at a good old German Warsteiner beer and the Bierstein. And then what Naila's up to is, what are you up to, Nail?
Today I am working out with weights, at least right now. And I've been doing Zumba online and yoga just to try and keep fit.
Oh.
I've also been eating a lot.
But then we exercise a lot more to make up for it, so we'll see you on Sunday.
Bye.
Hello from the Steelmans. We're all doing really great at our house. Everyone is healthy and well. I am fortunate enough to teach English as a second language online and work for the church, so my job is already at home. Patrick is also working at home through Tinker, so he's got a little setup here and he's doing awesome. The kids are doing online learning, so that's keeping them busy. We have plenty of food in our pantry and our fridge is stocked. We also are doing great on toilet paper and Clorox wipes, so there is everything's going well here, and we hope you guys are doing good, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
You know, as bad as things are right now, there's still a lot that we have to be grateful for. And during this last song here, try to bring to mind some things that, in ways that God has been good to you, your family, your health, where you live, and salvation, and all the things, ways God's been good to you. right, well, today I want to start with this word, desensitization. It happens to us when we become so bombarded with bad news that it all kind of begins to have a numbing effect on us. We see pictures of the starving faces of children in war-torn countries. We see the victims of yet another terrorist attack. We see the tally of death tolls rise, coronavirus in our own country, even deaths right here in Oklahoma, right here in our own city. And it's easy to become desensitized to that sometimes. In fact, sometimes we feel kind of guilty, like maybe this should move us more than it actually does. And while none of us really have the capacity or power to do too much about the various tragedies and suffering that happened around us, God does call us to do what we can do. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. Well, today we are in what would be week 3 of our series called That's Why They Call Grace Amazing. And my talk is entitled Showing Grace to Others. But first I want to stop and thank my studio audience for being here today. I really appreciate the love and support you guys are showing me today. Well, Hebrews 4:16 says that let us approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. You know, if the theme of the Old Testament was that God is holy, 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 the theme of the New Testament would be that God is grace, grace, grace. In Acts 6, verse 8, it says that Stephen was one of the leaders of the early church, was a man full of God's grace. And so today I want to talk to you about ways that you can become a person like Stephen, filled with God's grace, which will enable you then, of course, to show God's grace to others. Now, if you haven't printed off your announcement sheet that was included with your email, and it's also found on Facebook, and you want to ride along with the outline of my talk here, you could pause the video right now and go print it and be ready for that. The first way that we can show grace to others is by serving. 1 Peter verse 4, chapter 4, verse 10, says that every believer has been gifted by God to serve others as a steward of his grace. Now, everybody in the church knows who Siobhan Gower is. She just retired from serving 22 years in the military, and she now works at the VA Medical Center in downtown Oklahoma City. She told me that in California and other places, some nurses and medical personnel are actually refusing to come into work, fearful that they will contract the disease themselves. And so, in a way, you can't blame them for being afraid. It's understandable, but it makes it all that much more impressive how the vast majority of doctors and nurses and other responders are coming in. They are putting their lives at risk. They are on the front lines of this dangerous, courageous, and deadly crisis. They are truly public servants, and we want to highly commend them and thank them for their service. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus said that no act of servanthood will ever go unnoticed by God. Whatever you do, even if no one else knows about it, God sees. He sees what is done in secret, and he will reward you. A word of love spoken to someone who's discouraged, an anonymous financial gift, a prayer of strength for someone who's struggling, going out of your way to help someone who needs a hand. The scripture says that none of it will ever go unnoticed by your Heavenly Father. Every single act of selflessness and servanthood is noticed, and every single act of selflessness and servanthood is rewarded, both in this life and in the next. Now, exactly how God's heavenly reward system operates is going to be a bit of a surprise, but rest assured that whatever the rewards are, 1 Corinthians 2 verse 9 says that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no human mind can even conceive of what God has prepared for those who love him. Whatever the rewards are, they will be beyond our wildest imaginations. The second way we can show grace to others is by forgiving. Now, some of you know I love playing basketball and continue playing into my old age, even when I suffer injuries from time to time. Well, there's a guy who plays sometimes that, unlike most of the guys, kind of gripes about stuff. He yells at guys who make mistakes and kind of brings a negative vibe to the court when he's there. One day after he'd gone off about some mistake that someone had made or some unfair foul or whatever, I said to him, I hate it when it gets this way. I didn't say it loud enough for everyone to hear. I just said it to him. And he blew up. He said, hey, if you've got something to say to me, say it to my face. And so I said, well, I did say it to your face. That's why you heard it. And he just screamed over me. He wouldn't let me get a word in. And he said, be a man. You have something to say to me, say it to my face. And I continued to try to explain that I did, and he continued to yell me down. And even after the game had ended, he came over and started ranting and raving at me. Now, like most people, I don't appreciate and enjoy being screamed at, especially when the guy apparently he was trying to show me up. I'm not sure what it was. But as we were leaving the gym, I was with my son Michael, who was probably 17 at the time. The guy kept saying, if you be a man, if you've got something to say to me, say it to my face. And again, I tried to explain, I did say it to your face. That's how you heard it, and no one else did. And he continued to say, be a man, say it to my face. And I couldn't get a word in over his ranting and raving. Now this guy says he goes to church. And later he actually apologized to one of the other guys that plays out there. And later he even told Michael, you and your dad are better men than I am. But he never apologized to me or said a word about it to me. And he continues to kind of act belligerent sometimes and argues and yells at guys. Mark 11:25, though, says that if you hold anything against someone, you should forgive them. And so I don't want to hold anything against him, so I have forgiven him. I still don't particularly enjoy being around him. But since a part of showing grace to others is forgiving, then, I try to do that. Now, part of my thought that day was, poor guy, wife, and children. I imagine they've been on the end of these rants and raves many times themselves. However, what that guy did to me is just nothing compared to the way that some of you have been wronged by other people. And by people who are close to you. Maybe you were wronged seriously in profound ways by your parents, or by a spouse, or by children, or by coworkers or friends, or maybe a coach along the line. Lies and betrayals and abuse. So what is biblical forgiveness? Is it just to go on and act like nothing ever happened? Does it mean you have to become best friends with that person? Is it to let them use you and abuse you and then you just continue forgiving them? What if that enables them to do it again and again? What if the person who hurt you isn't even sorry? In fact, they gloat over it. Do you still have to forgive them? Forgiveness, I have learned, is hard. And forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's more of a process. It's a part of showing grace to others. A third way we can show grace to others is by encouraging. In the New Testament, the word for encouragement is comfort. And 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. The word encourage appears over 100 times in the New Testament. So this is obviously of tremendous importance. Why? Because the amazing power found in and through encouragement. Psychologist Dr. Henry Goddard did research on the effects of certain types of words on children. They were hooked up to what's called an ergograph, and he found out that when children were given words of praise and encouragement, the ergograph showed an immediate upward surge in energy. When given words of criticism or discouragement, the physical and emotional energy suddenly took a nosedive. In Acts chapter 4, verse 36, we meet a guy named Joseph. Most of us know him by the nickname Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. In other words, he so regularly went around saying positive and encouraging things to people that he was given the nickname Barnabas. Well, one of the easiest and most powerful ways that you can show God's grace to others is to channel your inner Barnabas. Think about it. What really does it cost you to say something nice to someone? Maybe a few seconds? What does it cost you to say thank you or great job or anything encouraging? With the same 3 or 5 seconds it takes to gripe at someone or to criticize someone, you could use those same 3 to 5 seconds to be encouraging someone. A friend of mine recently pasted this on their Facebook page. A man went to church. He forgot to switch off his phone and it rang in the church accidentally during a prayer. The pastor scolded him. The worshipers admonished him for interrupting the silence. His wife kept on lecturing him on his carelessness on the way home. One could see the shame, embarrassment, and humiliation in his face. After all this, he never stepped foot in the church again. Well, that evening he went to a bar. He was still nervous and trembling, and he spilled his drink on the table by accident. A waiter apologized and gave him a napkin to clean up. The janitor mopped the floor. The female manager offered him a complimentary drink. She also gave him a hug and a peck while saying, "Don't worry, man, who doesn't make mistakes?" He has not stopped going to the bar since. Encouraging instead of criticizing is a great way of showing grace to others. Number 4 is standing up for others. Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9 say, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Defend those who are defenseless." A few years ago, we were stuck in the Houston airport one evening because of some storms and tornadoes that had caused flights to be delayed or canceled. And as we were sitting there waiting, Jana noticed an Asian woman with a baby and 2 other little children. And she seemed very upset, and so Jana got up and asked her if she needed any help. This woman could barely speak any English, and she was standing in the back of a very long line like this of other people trying to make, arrangements for their flights. So Jana gets the woman, her baby, and her 2 other little kids, and they walk to the front of the line. And she says to everyone, "Hey, this woman is from another country. She's got this little baby and these 2 other kids. Would it be okay if she were to come to the front of the line and get help?" And Jana said that several other people were like, "No, we were here first." She was like, "Really? Really? You can't see and feel for this poor woman and her situation?" And so Jana and this woman talked to the people at the counter and got her flight taken care of, and that was the last we saw of her. But I was really proud of Jana for doing that, and that is showing grace to others. That is standing up for someone who could not stand up for themselves. Now, a couple of years ago, Matthew was in middle school, and in gym one day, gym class, there was a kid whose hair had come out because of his cancer treatments. And some of the other kids were making fun of him. So Matthew said, "You freaking idiots, he's got cancer." This was conveyed to us later by the gym teacher. So the kids turned on Matthew and started saying things to him. And eventually he was sent to the office for it. And later the principal told us, Matthew said, "Are you freaking kidding me? I'm in trouble for taking up for the kid with freaking cancer?" We were sort of proud of Matthew for doing that. Well, so far we've talked about showing grace to others by serving, by forgiving, by encouraging, by standing, and number 5, by caring. In Philippians 2 verse 4, it talks about don't look to your own interest only, but also to the interest of others. Now, everyone in our church recognizes this little guy. His name is Jackson. He was born with what's called charge syndrome. And he's just a little guy. He's already had multiple surgeries. But he is one of the most curious, energetic little kids you'll ever meet. He loves the music at our services, and sometimes he even gets up on the stage all on his own. The teachers in kids' church love Jackson. Everyone in the church treats Jackson like a rock star. And people need that. People need to feel like someone cares about them. We all need that. Our church isn't perfect, but I do think that just about every one of us feels like the people at the church care about me and my life, that we matter. A 6th way of showing God's grace to others is by expressing. Colossians 4 verse 6 tells us to let your speech be full of grace. But then 1 John 3 verse 18 adds, let us not love with words or speech only, but also with actions. Now, Mickey Mantle grew up in this home in Commerce, Oklahoma, which was just about 3 miles from where I grew up in Miami. And when Mickey was just a young boy, his dad worked in the mines out by Quapaw and Pitcher, Oklahoma. And Mickey Mantle said he loved his parents, especially his dad, who would get off to work before sunrise and get home to work with just a little bit of daylight left. And Mickey would meet him at the door with a ball and a bat and 2 gloves, and his dad, as tired as he was from working 10 to 12 hours in the mines, would play catch with Mickey and, hit him fly balls and grounders and let him practice hitting. As he got older, and his dad would take the day off and from work and go to watch Mickey play in Joplin, Missouri or Pittsburgh, Kansas, and to encourage him and to coach him and to challenge him to be the best he could be. Mickey Mantle says that the main reason that he made it to the major leagues was because of his dad. Well, just after Mickey's 20th birthday, his dad, only 39 years old, died of Hodgkin's disease. In his autobiography, Mickey Mantle wrote, "I went to the funeral alone, and at the graveside service, after everyone had left, I stood at my father's grave remembering 1,000 things from the past. All the hours my father had spent with me, all that my father had done for me, and all the chances I had to say thank you and let him know how much he'd meant to me. But I never told him. I never said I love you, not even once." Now, for all of us, it's not too late to say I love you and I appreciate you to the most important people in our lives. One of my all-time highlights of being a dad happened several years ago when I returned from my annual study break. The way we used to do it is Jan and I would go out, and we would be there before we could have some time alone for a week or so. And then the kids would come out, and we would be there with them in Cabo for a couple of weeks to enjoy some important family time. And then Jan and the kids would go back, and I would stay by myself for about a week or so and finish all the work that I needed to get done. And this is a picture of about the age that the kids were at that time. And so on the night I was flying in, Jan and the kids were going to pick me up at the Oklahoma City airport. And so the plane lands, and I go down to the baggage claim, and I'm standing around waiting for my luggage, when out of nowhere I hear cries, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." And running at me were Michael and Megan. And as I sort of knelt down to hug them, they just plowed right over me, knocked me backwards on the floor, and they were jumping all over me, kissing me, yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." Well, when they finally let up, all the people in the baggage claim area were like, "Man, he must have just gotten back from Iraq or something." But that airport attack by my kids is one of my all-time highlights as a dad. We have to show it. We have to say it. Expressing your love to someone is one of the greatest ways of showing grace to others. All right, finally, number 7 is shining. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. So let your light shine in such a way that people will see your good deeds and be drawn to God." What Jesus is saying is that the attitudes and actions of his followers will either draw people toward God or push them further away. And Jesus was pleading for his followers to live in such a way as to draw people to him, rather than repel people away from him. He was saying to his followers then and now, please understand how important your daily actions and words and attitudes are. How high the stakes are, because you're being watched by people in your world, and how you live your life as a Christian will influence other people more than you think. So why not you? In your corner of the world, why not let your light shine? Those of you who are believers, let me ask you, what is your wattage in terms of shining, letting your light shine for Christ these days? Are you just a 25-watt bulb, just a dim glimmer of a light? Or maybe a 50-watt light? Why not aspire to be a 75 or 100-watt light for Christ? Remember this verse from earlier? Wouldn't it be great if people were to say about you, she is a person who's really filled with God's grace, or he is a person who is full of God's grace? Well, here are 7 very easy, I shouldn't say easy, very practical ways that you can do it and you can become that person that you want to be. Let's pray. Lord, I'm grateful for this time in this unusual way with our church family. I pray that you would bring out the best in all of us during this difficult time. That we would be among those who show your grace to others. And that we would be persons just filled with your grace to express it, to forgive, to love, to shine, to stand up, to serve, to do what we can to spread your grace in this world. Pray that you keep all of us safe until we can finally get back together again as a church family like we're used to. In Jesus' name, amen.